Now, amplification is a very, very important concept for you in 2020. Because when you have the number two with the duality, with the two different entities, you have one and you have two, and immediately there is distance, there is a concept of exchange, there is a concept of cause and effect. When you move into an understanding of agreement and amplification, it isn't so much about a two, it's about the one greeting the one. So there is agreement in that moment. There is amplification in that moment, just as one light standing next to another light, this light does not cause this light, and this light does not cause this light. It is an amplification of light. That's very important. It's important because many of you will be drawn to engage with others in 2020 and will be asking the question, why? Why am I interested in this person? Why do I want to join this group? Why do I want to form a group? Why do I want to go to this event? Why do I want to be with these people? It has nothing to do in 2020 with what effect you can have on them or what effect they can have on you. It will be about the amplification experience. In other words, you experience what it is to be in complete agreement with your reality. You experience what it is when people move into agreement with you, where you are in agreement with others. And in essence, you experience an amplification of yourself. And this is incredibly important because if humans are going to understand their sovereign power, their ability to be the center of the reality, the creator source that they really are, you experience it in terms of an amplification of yourself. Now, some of you who work in, say, the healing arts or are speakers or are ones who are visionaries, you will experience this amplification effect when you move into your being state. It is not so much that you are receiving energy from others or that you are giving energy to others. It's that you are experiencing amplification of your true self. Indeed, this is what the very manner of all great perceived healings, in our view, is. It's amplification. So this concept of amplification in 2020 is a very, very, very strong theme. It's also a strong theme that can be misconstrued or misinterpreted as effect. Now, what you see in your social environments at this time and leading into 2020, has been very rapid effect within your reality. Things moving very quickly. Things having an perceived impact in a much greater way than usual. One small thing experiencing itself en masse. Again, this is a demonstration of amplification rather than cause and effect. So be very aware how you are viewing your world, because when you begin to view in a continual way cause and effect, you actually miss the grand theater of amplification that is occurring. It's wise for you to begin to adjust your view of this. When you walk out into a forest and you experience a tree in the middle of a forest, in that moment, let's say, for example, there is a tree that is a very, very ancient tree. There's an ancient oak tree there in the middle of the forest. And all around are other oak trees. But this ancient one has taken your attention. When you stand and you regard this oak tree, you feel it. You acknowledge it. Now, in that acknowledgement, is your awareness on the effect that that oak tree has had on its environment? Are you thinking, well, this oak tree in its greatness has produced all of these other oak trees around it from its seed? What a powerful, powerful tree, because it has created all this as a result of its presence. It's very unlikely that that is what you will be experiencing when you engage with the tree. Instead, you are very likely to be experiencing that this oak tree is the center of a great forest. And in that moment, you experience the amplification effect of this oak tree. And you do not see singular trees that have become a ripple effect from it. You instead embody and experience the amplification of tree into the embodiment of the forest. How is this different to how you would engage with and experience another human? Because this is the year where there are going to be a lot of questions asked about leadership. When you look at another person that you believe is highly influential, do you believe that they are influential because of the ripple effect that they are creating, because of their causative nature? Do you see everything that has occurred around them as a result of their effect? Or do you begin to see the reality that is formed around them, seeing it for what it is, as an amplification of who they are? This is a very, very important position of perspective, because it's very, very difficult for humans to recognize each other beyond cause and effect. Now, when you begin to see a human and you understand that their reality is an amplification of themselves, you begin to look at yourself in terms of an amplification. And you begin to see that the reality around you is less of an effect of your presence, and it is more of an extension of your presence. Because an extension is not something that is separate to you. It is something that moves from you and is in complete agreement with you and amplifies the very nature of yourself. So we invite you on this day to ask yourself the question for 2020, what is it that appears in my view? What is it that is an amplification of me? How is it that my focus is with, what I can see all around me? How is this an amplification of who I am? It's a very important question for you, because you cannot exist in singularity if you are looking at your world from that place. That is when you understand collectivity. That is when you understand the unified field of consciousness. So, blessed ones, this is a year, as we say to you again, where you begin to see things differently. But shared experience, zero. Shared experience, zero. It is wise for you to consider that the sense of isolation and separation that you feel in some moments is because you have been in this collective experience and then you go back to the nothing. It is not wise for you to view it that you were involved and now you're not involved. You belonged and now you do not belong. Remember, it is the inhalation and the exhalation. The inhalation and the exhalation. Inhalation, back to the zero. Exhalation, amplification. Natural movement of life on your planet. When we say to you that you are going to begin to view leadership in a different way, it is not so that you can move into judgment and assessment. It is so that you can begin to understand how influence occurs on your planet. It is so that you can begin to understand that amplification is far more powerful than creating an effect. And you begin to see that perceived systems that have been developed on your planet that are designed for effect become more laborious and less effectual in the coming months. Indeed, it is wise for you to understand that there will be many systems that you believe have power, or have power over you, or have power over humanity, or have power over communication, or have power over knowledge distribution, that you will begin to see have less and less effect. Because humanity in 2020 and beyond is going to begin to demonstrate and understand through their amplification experience that everything that is required can be extended into your reality. It becomes a less and less emphasis upon the importance of acquiring something external to you. Therefore, information systems and systems that deal with distribution are going to become more and more laborious and less effectual in their operation. It is nothing for you to concern yourselves with. It is a natural reset and a natural inclination towards systems that begin with a 0 point rather than systems that begin with a 2. Very well, blessed ones. We invite questions at this time, for we understand there are many questions that humans have about time itself, and yet we sit with you in this moment in the 0. It is wise for you to remember that this year for you is a year of contrast. 2, 0, 2, 0. There are experiences of movement and experiences of stagnation. There are experiences where there is a lot happening and experiences where there is nothing happening. There are experiences of abundance and experience of no thing. Be ye very aware that no thing is not the opposite of everything. No thing is the beginning. When we say unto you, what do you want? And a human will say, well, I want everything. If you want everything, you want every experience, you want every direction, but it cannot be experienced without the no thing. Because humans on a third dimensional, one path belief of their reality cannot experience everything. You must go back to the reset. You must go back to the 0, and from there move in all directions. Very well, blessed ones. There is a question at this time, and the question is about the weather on your planet. The weather on your planet at this time, blessed ones, is inconsistent. It is inconsistent, and it is also experiencing itself in amplification. The earth itself is experiencing itself in amplification. How is it that these different qualities and facets and potentials for the earth to express itself through the myriad of elements, is now being amplified in its experience to humanity? Well, this amplification, of course, is the earth also experiencing shared experience. For eons, the earth has moved in its own way. It has expressed itself through elements in its own way. And now, more than ever, the earth's expression becomes a shared experience for humanity. Many humans will say, but this is terrible, but this is unsustainable. It is an amplification experience. The question for you, blessed ones, is how will you experience it from your own point of reference? Will you experience it as an amplification of emotion? Will you experience it as a shared experience for the earth? Will you experience it as a sense of power for what is being expressed? Will you experience it as an amplified sense of terror for not being in control of what the earth is doing? Now, that's a very important question. How is it that in times of amplification that the human mind insists that there be control? There are many, many questions being suggested, many questions arising during this time, particularly within this continent, Australia, you call it, all about control. What is it that we can control? What is it that you can't control? How can we prevent things? How could we have prevented things? The question here is thus, how do you experience it? How do you experience it? Because amplification is not about control. It's about understanding the magnitude of the view. Now imagine, if you will, that you're looking through an aperture of a camera and you're looking at a wide scene, and you can move into one particular animal that is out on the savannah, and you can control where that camera is going to follow that beast. Now, for the photographer, for the one viewing through the lens, they have a certain amount of control about the story that they are telling. Because looking at one particular animal amongst a great herd, there is a story to be told. This individual animal. It goes this way, it goes this way, it eats something, it moves towards a partner, perhaps it mates, perhaps it goes for water, perhaps it is killed. There is a story there. And the one who is looking through the lens is controlling that story. Now, you may say unto us, well, actually, the one looking through the lens is not controlling that story. They're just watching. They're watching the story unfold. But we say unto you this, if the one looking through the lens had a very wide aperture, and there were thousands of animals there within that view, there would be no story of the one beast. Where is it? All that can be seen now is the unification of the herd and the collective nature of such. So ask yourself this, who is the creator of the story? Does it depend on your view? When you look through the lens, how wide is your focus or how narrow is it? Can your experience of reality, can reality itself completely change based on how you choose to use your lens or your camera? Ask yourself this, does that individual beast even exist without the ability to move into singularity with your lens? Very interesting question for you to ask, blessed ones. Here we have a question. When you say we will experience times of isolation, what would you recommend we do to utilize this time of isolation, especially if I can often struggle with feelings of personal isolation? Well, this is a very, very common experience at this time, blessed ones. The sense of isolation at this time is not designed to make you feel as if you do not belong. It's designed to help you to understand that you are the totality of your existence. And indeed, it is not a time to feel minimized in the whole sphere of reality. It is a time to remember that in those moments where you feel isolated, you are everything. Because you are everything to yourself at this time. When you are in a sense of isolation, you are everything. I am all that I have. I am in this house. I am by myself. I'm not near family and friends. But instead of feeling minimized by that, feel grandiose in it, perhaps. I am all that there is. How much can you fill up your space? How much does your isolation give you a sense of freedom? Because there is no requirement of you when you are in that. You feel as if you are lost because in that sense of isolation, blessed one, you feel as if you have no effect. Is that not the truth? You feel as if you have no effect. So that is your window. That is your opportunity to, instead of considering yourself in terms of cause and effect, amplification. How do I fill this space? There's nobody here but me. Make yourself important in your isolation. Make yourself grandiose in it. It is complete opposite of what most humans do, because in an emotional perspective, humans tend to contract emotionally when they feel isolated rather than completely expand and fill the space. It's your moment, blessed one, to experience yourself. Not as separate, not as in the two, but as in the zero. You are all in that moment. Here is another question. Is it true that time is simply a concept of humans? If so, how do we remove ourselves from the limitation of this concept? Well, blessed one, as we have said, time is a concept of third dimensional reality, the nature of cause and effect and distance. So, as we previously referred to in this conversation, it is not about removing yourself from time. It is about learning how to be in it and beyond it. And beyond it. So you don't want to remove yourself from the concept. You want to understand that it is a concept. When you understand that it is a concept, then you have the ability to look beyond it. What else is there? What else is there? Again, the zero gives you the opportunity. When you go to sleep, you are not existing in time. Your experience is timeless. When you awaken, before the mind brings you back into time. What time is it? Where do I need to be? What is my timeline for this day? What is my limitation? What is my expectation? In that moment when you awaken, what is the possibility? Experience yourself in timelessness and then experience yourself in time. Your challenge this year, blessed ones, is to experience both. Here is another question. Last year, a transformation through trust, allowing detachment of the many things, thoughts, people, and identity, releasing what was to bring us closer to a blank canvas, ready for this reset. Not so much a question, but rather a confirmation. Although it is not so much about releasing or letting go, as you know, it's about the acknowledgement. And for many of you, acknowledging these are the conditions, acknowledging these are the identities, acknowledging this exists, pain exists, history exists within this reality, cause and effect, trauma, such things. It's not about letting them go, and this many people will begin to understand. It's not about getting rid of them. It's about acknowledging that they exist, and then you have the ability to move beyond it, beyond the 2, the 0, the 2, the 0. How do you be in that and be beyond it? Because blessed ones, let's be clear. You are here at this time in this reality. Are you not supposed to be in this reality? If you were not meant to be in this reality, you wouldn't be. So your challenge and the game is not to try to move beyond this into something else exclusively, nor is it to get rid of everything that you have so that you can begin again. It's actually to learn how to be in it. How do you be multidimensional within such perception of limitation? You acknowledge it, then what else? What else, what else, what else, what else? Because otherwise, blessed ones, the game of removal goes on and on and on and on and on. But yes, blessed one, we concur with you. It brings you closer to the 0. And so this year is about the coexistence of the 0 and the shared experience. The 0 and the shared experience. We thank you for your comment. Here is another question. Would you please explain the relationship between amplification, intensity of experience, going through the trapdoor, manifests the unlimited possibilities available to us all? Well, this is many questions in one question, is it not, blessed one? We can see the mind going everywhere at this time. You are indeed in many places at once. Relationship between amplification, intensity, and going through the trapdoor. Question here, we would understand is thus: does an amplification of your identity prevent you from going through the trapdoor? The trapdoor, in other words, where you drop beneath purpose, you drop beneath your identity, you no longer wish to fill your space with concepts of who and what you are. When you amplify your experience, when you experience amplification, it is an agreement for yourself. It is not an agreement of your identity. We must be very clear here that when you are amplifying yourself, it is not an amplification of who you are, who you can be identified as. It's not an amplification of your unique signature even. It's not an amplification of your vibrational frequency. We don't want to speak about it in that way. It's an amplification for a demonstration of what consciousness is. And so you experience amplification of consciousness, which is experienced as amplification of yourself, not amplification of your personality, not amplification of who you think you are. The amplification itself is a direct experience of the nature of consciousness. Just as when you go into the forest and you see the oak tree and all the other oak trees, it's an amplification of oak tree. It's an acknowledgement of the nature of consciousness, not of the identity of that oak tree. So we want to be very clear that amplification, intensity of experience, and losing your identity are all part of one and the same. We hope that we have answered your question. We have a question here about detail, about opening in April, May, June. Well, Blessed One, detail would suggest that what is in April, May, and June has already been created. And while all things have already been created, also nothing has been created. We do want to say that this amplification experience, however, in April, May, and June for humanity is experienced as a commonality in voice. It is an amplification of voice, and many humans will be encouraged to stand up and speak, not about what they wish to move against, but what is true. To speak about what is true. This is true. This is true. This is true. Not about what is not true, but what about what is true. So there is amplification effect, because you will begin to see that what you believe is true begins to be expressed within the shared experience. April, May, June is a time of great movement on the planet, and it's also a move towards independence. Independence, 2020, independence. The independence, indeed, blessed ones, is often experienced in terms of isolation, but you must understand that the independence is a new movement of consciousness on your planet. Now, we want to speak for a very brief moment about what many believe that Christ consciousness has been and what it will be. Christ consciousness in form on your planet has been known to be about unification of consciousness and a collective consciousness. Humans coming together to unite, coming together to work in a collective way, acknowledging each other. What you will begin to understand is that the new experience of Christ consciousness on the planet is going to be expressed in terms of sovereignty, in terms of independence, because humanity begins to understand that what they need is not beyond them, that it is within them. And therefore, this declaration of independence, we use our words very distinctly, is about sovereignty. And as such, it is likely that you will see various organizations, perhaps even nations, stand up for independence. There is much friction and much disruption that perhaps you will observe. And yet what we say to you is that it is very likely that this sense of independence is a form of a new humanity. It is not that humans do not acknowledge the greatness that they have in each other. It is not that humans do not understand or acknowledge that consciousness exists in all things. But this is an era now where humans begin to understand that they are the source of all and that they have everything that they need. That is all that we will say about it at this time. Here is another question. How can we continue in trust without becoming disheartened? Nothing could be exactly what we need. Yet our minds can dive into anxiety, thus old habits creep up. Nothing could be exactly what we need. We would ask you to reiterate your question, Blessed One. Because if you ask yourself here, what is it that I need? You know that what you need at this time is yourself and your awareness. It is not that you need no thing. It is that you are everything. But we will ask you to reiterate if you desire. Here is another question. How do I retain enough energy to be in the 3D world and follow multidimensional living as well? I find myself drained by others while I work and have nothing left for anything else to do. Is there a way to practice in my physical body? Blessed One, you are in cause and effect. You are in a system of exchange. I give, what do I receive? I have limited energy. Is this so? Is this so? Who are you really other than a source of consciousness? And consciousness is unlimited, Blessed One. If you are feeling drained, consider if you are doing it for them or doing it for yourself. Because every great healer, every great teacher that has walked this planet, Blessed One, it appears that they are doing something for others, but in essence, they are expressing for themselves to sustain themselves. The sun must express itself in order to continue to exist. And so for you, when you are attending somebody, know that you are practicing your vitality so that you may continue to exist. You are expressing yourself so that you may continue to exist. It is not for the benefit of another, it is for yourself. Why? Because when you understand the totality of consciousness, you understand that you are the center of your reality, and this person with a perceived ailment that has shown up in your space is an extension of you, a great opportunity for you, a great privilege for you to express yourself too. The sun does not run out of energy, blessed one. It continues to exist as long as it expresses. The day that the sun stops expressing is the day that it ceases to exist. So, blessed one, we encourage you to continue to express yourself in this way, but be very aware that you do it for yourself.